Titania is a popular Warframe, but not in the way you think. She isn't a frame that is a must-have or most desired for a lot of situations like Volt, Wisp, or even Revenant, but a frame that is quite meta for only one thing, but is pretty much mediocre for literally everything else. What's good, folks? It's Nightmare Frame here with a new Warframe video, coming at you with a Titania video, taking a look at why she's very popular for that one thing and what makes her so good at doing what she does in that one thing. For those who play Warframe and love farming platinum know how useful Titania is. Yes, Titania is used for farming platinum because she is the meta Warframe for relic farming. Now, what do I mean by relic farming? Meaning she's really good at farming Neo, Lith, and Meso relics from Hepit and Uko in the Void, where she goes in, moves really fast, gets to the point, and gets out. At the same time, she's also very useful at cracking those said relics. She can hold her own in Steel Path, she can kill Steel Path, she can survive Steel Path, but the loadout that we're going to be using, and the loadout that people are using, isn't necessarily that great in Steel Path runs, or even longer runs. And that is the Thermal Sunder Titania. What is Thermal Sunder? Well, it's an ability that comes from Gus. If you have not seen my recent Gus video, do go check it out. I explain more about that Warframe and its abilities. And unfortunately, this ability is way better on Gus than it is on other Warframes. So this is Thermal Sunder on Titania. As you can see, it's not that strong in Steel Path because it doesn't belong to her, but it's really good at killing low-level enemies and fodder enemy units in Steel Path. The one thing that everybody knows Titania for is Razorwing, where she shrinks down and turns into this little pixie that flies around. Basically an Archwing in regular missions. It's funny how this was the first vehicle Warframe and it's way better to use than that useless Ureli. Because a large hoverboard, it was a smart idea in the Warframe tilesets. At the same time, she has 3 other abilities that are not that great, let's be honest. However, her first ability is actually useful. Even though it's not that great, it's very useful because it gives you status immunity. When you activate this ability, you get this, status immune. And you can apply this to yourself and allies. Hold casting and quick tapping. But you can also look down or look at yourself to cast it on yourself. But notice, when I activate this ability, I'm moving faster. It's because of my augment, called Razorwing Blitz. This is her 4th ability augment. With this augment equipped, any ability that I use will increase my flight speed and fire rate, so she can be really fast. At the same time, I'm not getting staggered or anything like that. Unfortunately, this does not carry over to her regular mode, only in her Archwing mode. So when you dismount and remount, you do lose the buff, and you would have to reactivate your abilities to get back the buff. And this augment does scale with strength, so she can get really, really fast. The other downsides of being in this form is that any weapons that have special unique traits or mods that increase your movement do not carry over. So mods like Amalgam Serration or even the Praetos, all of that does not carry over because when she's in this mode, she gets her own set of weapons. Yes, she has 2 exalted weapons, the Dex Pixia, which are the akimbo pistols, and the Duata, a melee, an arc melee, unfortunately. Also, she loses the benefits of her pets. As you can see on the top right corner, my worm is grayed out because the worm isn't active, but she gets access to these razor flies. They function similarly like pets. Unfortunately, they do die off and permanently die off and only return if you reactivate the ability. The other downside for these Razorflies is that they can go out and attack enemies. And if you're in low-level missions waiting for enemies to be corrupted, well, these things will chase those enemies down and kill them. They also have another downside where they can literally body block your shots. They function like obstacles. So if they're in front of an enemy or attack an enemy, your shots will deal no damage. This is a thing that I've been talking about for such a long time and still exists till to this day, and it's quite annoying to deal with. That's if you're using her Duata. But for this loadout, you're not using any of her weapons. You're just using her flight mode and Thermal Sunder. the same time, being in her Archwing drains energy over time. But you can circumvent this easily by using efficiency or even increasing your duration and, of course, having energy income. Another downside of being in this mode, you cannot interact with any console or objects that require interacts. So you would have to dismount or go into your operator and activate whatever that you need to activate. But the great thing is that you can easily go back into your Archwing whenever you want. So what makes Titania any different from any Warframe that has a lot of movement speed and can also equip Thermal Sunder? Like Volt, he can just press 2 and have Thermal Sunder and spam it everywhere. What's stopping a Gust player from just doing what he does? Well, it's pretty simple. Titania, as I said earlier, has access to Archwing, and this gives you better movement, and you're not hindered by any sort of obstacle like stairs or elevators. Well, sometimes elevators, but that's besides the point. She doesn't have the issue where she needs a lot of multipliers to move really fast. She can just equip the augment, activate her ability, and she's already faster than any other Warframe in the entire game. And that allows her to fly around and just spam Thermal Sunder everywhere, and she can cover more ground faster than any other Warframe. That's why she's very useful with this ability. Otherwise, she's just Titania. Not that impressive. Basically, people are using Titania as a vessel to carry Thermal Sunder. And what's funny is that I went into a random public match-made relic farm, and what do you know? There were 2 other Titanias there, because she's that good for that specific type of content. Alright, let's find a Fisher mission. We got the usual. We're gonna do capture, meso capture, and Grenier. This is in regular mode, so it's not Steel Path. Alright, who we got? A Titania. Shocking. And a Volt. Okay, so we're gonna move really, really fast right here. As I said, Titania is quite popular when it comes to Fisher missions. And this is the second mission that I've done, and she's already in here. Another great tip is that you can cast your 4th ability mid-air, where it ends up speeding up the animation. It's like having a free natural talent without even using natural talent. And all you have to do is spam Thermal Sunder and loot. Make sure to cast your first ability so you get that status immunity. Even though casting Thermal Sunder does reactivate Razorwing Blitz, you want to have your first ability in there so you can get that PSF. And we're usually the first person to extraction. You know, the usual Titania things. But yeah, that's just your average Fisher nowadays. You're just going to see a lot of Titanias going around spreading the Thermal Sunder and nuking crap. So let's go over and take a look at the loadout. All right, here we are back in the Orbiter. Just remember, there are 3 abilities that you need to use. Your Razorwing, just to go into Razorwing, and activating Thermal Sunder to kill enemies and also activate Razorwing Blitz. At the same time, remind yourselves to activate Spellbind because this gives you status immunity. Even if it gives you status immunity, it can be nullified. If you fall off the map, fly into a nullifier bubble, I mean, that does happen quite a few times. I've had that happen where they're just behind the door. So now you may ask, what ability to replace? You're not going to be using the 2nd or the 3rd, so pens whatever you want to do. Now, taking a look at the Archon Shards, this is pretty important as well. I have 2 Tau Forge here for max energy filled when in a mission. This is pretty much replacing the need for preparation. Yes, so as soon as we enter a mission, full energy. No need to cast an energy pad or anything like that. Very nice. And I do have 2 Amber Shards, again, regular ones, but for casting speed. Even if you get bonus casting speed for activating your Razorwing mid-air, it's not going to help your other abilities. So that's why we need to have the 2 casting speed shards. And the last one, I put duration here. You can put whatever else you want. And here is another tip. You're gonna go into your options. Open up Invert Tap Hold abilities. I know I'm blocking it, it's just behind me. Right there, Invert Tap Hold abilities. Click that, and you're going to look for Gus and Titania. We got Gus, switch this to inverted. So then you always activate the Heat Sunder. You don't want the Cold Sunder, nor do you want to hold tap the ability all the time. So make sure that's inverted. And then you're going to find Titania right there, also inverted. So when you click your first ability, you just activate it everywhere. So you don't have to look down all the time. So when you enter a mission, make sure you're mid-air, activate your 4th, right? And now you can cast your first ability without having to look down. And that's it. Now, the weapons do not matter because they don't take effect. Same thing with your companion. It doesn't matter. It will only matter if you run out of energy and are forced to use your weapons. But with this loadout, you'll be spamming abilities indefinitely. So let's take a look at that loadout. In the aura, I do have corrosive projection. You can use whatever aura you want. It's up to you. You want sprint boost, you can totally do that. However, I would say you can use sprint boost if you're going with 100% strength. What does that mean? Well, you can easily do that by removing Umbral Intensify and using primed continuity. That will put you at 100 strength and 115 duration. That's with the duration shard on our build. Otherwise, you'll be at 105. But this is the loadout that's working pretty well, and you won't run out of any energy because we have 175% efficiency with a rank 4 fleeting and rank 4 streamline. This brings our drain to 2 energy per second and an activation of 6 energy. Also with a range of 175% with stretch and auger reach, brings our thermal sunder to 21 meters. Which is pretty good. With 21 meters, that's still a lot of coverage because Titania, as I said, flies around and moves pretty quickly. Prime flow for the large energy pool, of course, paired well with that max efficiency. You're not going to see much energy loss here. And finally, I do have Archon Vitality. This doubles our heat damage on thermal sunder. Very potent, very powerful. And without this augment, you're going to be moving pretty slow. So make sure you have Razorwing Blitz, casting abilities. This will increase your flight speed. Now in the arcade section, I do have Arcane Energize for the energy regen and Molt Efficiency. This increases our duration. You can use Molt Augmented, but the downside with Molt Augmented is that the strength increase that you build up does not snapshot in to Razorwing Blitz buff. You would have to dismount or let the Razorwing Blitz buff run out for you to actually get the benefits. So that's why I went with Molt Efficiency for a bit more duration. This duration does of course reduce the drain on Razorwing. At the same time, it improves the duration uptime of my other abilities. That's pretty much it. Make sure you have the Archon Shards so you get that max energy when you enter a mission, and you have the proper loadout where you can just go out there and spam abilities without having to worry about losing energy. All right, folks, that has been it for me. I do hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this video. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now. Have a good one. I'm just gonna do this Fisher real quick because, you know, why not?